In today's times, dragons are everywhere. They feature in books, films, TV series and video games. Sometimes as villains, other times as heroes. But where did these creatures originate from? Are they nothing more than made-up mythical figures, or is there more to them than this? In this 5-part series, we'll be looking at some of the most common mythical creatures and the histories behind them. From the infamous Russian Yeti, to something that originates way back to Greek mythology, real-life giants. We'll be separating the myth from the real, and even looking at evidence pointing towards these creatures not being so mythical after all. So from evidence of their possible existence, to how they are recognised around the world, here are 5 things you need to know about dragons. Sit back and enjoy. Today's description and territory. Now there is no need to describe the common dragon, as I'm sure you're all familiar with them, but the typical mythical dragon is portrayed as a large reptile with slight differences depending on the region or culture it originated from. The European dragon is depicted as a giant fire-breathing, scaly lizard-like creature with leathery bat-like wings, horns and a long muscular tail. Some show dragons with more elaborate detailing like feathered wings, ear frills, crests and ivory spikes running down their spines. Whereas Chinese dragons, who are legendary in Chinese folklore, are more snake-like serpents with 4 legs and are thought to signify potent and favourable powers. With control over water, the Chinese dragon is a symbol of power, strength and luck. The blood of a dragon is also thought to contain unique powers, and reports go way back of Chinese families supposedly raising dragons to use their blood for medicine. In popular culture, dragons have featured in a variety of books, films and TV programs, most notably The Hobbit, Game of Thrones and of course Harry Potter, as well as games like Pokemon, World of Warcraft and Super Mario, and they even appear on the national Welsh flag. So where exactly did all this dragon mania come from, and is there any possibility that they were once real? Where did they originate, and what is the earliest sighting? Many paleontologists today believe there are connections between the mythological dragon and the human discovery of dinosaur fossils, and that dragons have evolved in our minds from a possible real-life creature that lived in prehistoric times. The similarities between dinosaurs and dragons are well documented, and in the 4th century, Chinese historian Chang Qi found fossilized dinosaur bones and mistakenly identified them as dragons. It's an easy mistake. You only have to look at a fossilized Stegosaurus, a giant 30-foot long beast with armoured plates and spikes down its back, to see it has a striking resemblance to how we depict a dragon. All it needs is the wings and horns. Other winged dinosaurs, such as Petanosaurus and Pterodactyl, although much smaller, also bear a resemblance to a dragon. So it is possible, even extremely likely, that many of the dragon legends that are known in some cultures are the distorted memories of people and their perception of dinosaurs. However, this is where things get interesting. Before the dawn of communication, how were different countries depicting the same dragon-looking creature if it didn't exist? The Red Dragon of Wales, for example, has been around for a very long time, the oldest reference being written around 830. At the same time, across the world, depictions of the same creature were also being made. Also, dragon has been depicted in Greek mythology for thousands of years, and there are countless tales of men fighting off these huge beasts before any bones would have been found. These include 1st century Greek historian Strabo, who reported a 2 cubits long winged reptile that would fly around at night in India and terrify the locals. I find that pretty interesting. Again, not saying dragons were definitely real, but how the details and tales of them have stayed so consistent for thousands of years is interesting. A modern day equivalent according to science. There are actually a few species that fit the genre of being a modern day dragon. The first is of course the Komodo dragon from Indonesia. This supersized reptile can grow up to 3 meters long and weighs as much as 70 kilograms. Now that's not on the scale of how we perceive enormous dragons, but it is the world's biggest lizard, and it's pretty nasty as well, capable of killing water buffalo, pigs and deer, just using its razor-sharp teeth. And although they cannot breathe fire, their saliva is incredibly venomous. In fact, the Komodo dragon is what's thought Alexander the Great witnessed hissing at him from inside a cave in India, to which he reported it as a hissing dragon. Another creature with similarities to a dragon is the dragon snake found in Indonesia and Malaysia. It's a baffling reptile that goes by several other names, including Javan mud snake and ruffed back litter snake. It has rows of knobbly black raised scales that run down its back. Curiously, there is only one species of dragon snake, and many have theorised that it could be a descendant of the real thing. Lastly, there is an animal called Dracovolon. It's a species of lizard found in Southeast Asia. If you scaled this thing up, you would basically have a real-life mythical dragon. So when you learn all this, dragons are really far from just mythical creatures. If you look at the features and behaviours of animals that we already have on Earth now, maybe somewhere down the line, a real-life creature and local legend and myths merged into one, giving us the mythical dragon that we think of today. But what if the ancient reports were not exaggerated, and a creature used to exist that fits the exact description of what we now consider a mythical creature? Most believable encounters and evidence. Now, we've talked about some of the creatures that may have been mistaken for dragons, but it's a more recent discovery that ticks all of the boxes of how we imagine a dragon to look, and could prove that dragons did in fact exist. It's been named Dracorex hogwartsia, and it was discovered in May 2003 in the Hell Creek region of South Dakota. An almost complete skull and several neck vertebrae were found by 3 amateur paleontologists from Iowa, Brian Buckmere and Stephen Pat Salisbury, who donated their find to the Children's Museum of Indianapolis, where it's still on display today. When reconstructed, it's the closest any of the dinosaurs look to a dragon, with its bony head covered in spikes and knobs, and an estimated length of 8 to 9 meters with a height of 1.2 meters. So it is a lot smaller than the typical mythical dragon we depict today. Its name was also chosen for its dragon-like appearance, Dracorex meaning Dragon King in Latin. And believe it or not, the Hogwarts part of course comes from the Harry Potter series. Its discovery is unique, as it's the first time this species of bone-headed dinosaur fossils have ever been found, and this new specimen suggests a new category in the evolutionary department of the bone-headed dinosaur family, meaning there is a lot we still do not know about dinosaurs and/or dragons. So could Dracorex hogwartsia be the actual creature that has been associated as a dragon for thousands of years? It's certainly an important breakthrough in the search for proof that dragons perhaps did once exist. So are they real, or is it all just a myth? After looking at all the evidence, the question is, were dragons real, or just a myth? The concept of dragons has captivated humans for centuries, with stories of heroic men slaying fire-breathing dragons. They are memorialised in artwork and legends around the world, and although some of the depictions differ slightly, the overall features are all remarkably similar. So who's to say that a dragon was not just a type of dinosaur that survived? After all, the name dinosaur was not even heard of until the mid-1800s. So it's possible that before the word dinosaur came into our vocabulary, these huge reptilian land animals were in fact thought of as dragons. The problem with this argument is the fire-breathing part, as most of the basic characteristics of a dragon can be found in known creatures, but one that breathes fire cannot. However, chemically it is possible for this to happen, as is the case with a bombardier beetle, an insect that is capable of spraying a very hot, noxious chemical spray through its abdomen. The beetle achieves this by storing 2 chemicals in 2 reservoirs in its stomach, and when the 2 mix together, heat from the reaction brings the mixture to boiling point, and produces a gas that drives the expulsion. However, although it seems a bit far-fetched to link this tiny destructive beetle to a huge fire-breathing reptile, but it does demonstrate the possibility. It's entirely plausible that, like many creatures, dragons went extinct for the same reasons any other animal does, and those that did witness them felt compelled to keep their existence alive by many stories, drawings, books and artifacts that have been found to date back thousands of years. Were dragons a figment of humans' imagination that has become immortalised in the legend to this day? Or is it possible they did once exist? I would certainly like to think that they did once roam the earth. But what's your thoughts? So that's 5 things you need to know about dragons. I hope you've enjoyed, and if you did, then don't forget to hit the notification bell for this channel, so you don't miss out on the next episode of this series. And also go subscribe to our mailing list over on the Top 5's website for weekly emails on the best content from the site. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.